Hey folks, question for you. What are you doing on July 8th? If the answer is nothing, you should come join us at Fusion. This is the learning conference hosted by D2L, and this year it's going to be taking place in Phoenix, Arizona. Robin Hammondtree and I are going to be hosting a pre-conference workshop on how to redesign your courses and programs in the age of AI. This will be a full day workshop, which means by the end of this, you are going to know everything as much as I do about AI, and you're going to be walking away of actually making real changes to your courses that day. So come nerd out with us. You can sign up by using the link in the show notes, and be sure to use the discount code RobinLuke150 to save $150 off your enrollment. So once again, this will be July 8th in Phoenix, Arizona for Fusion. And yes, it's gonna be hot because it's the summer and in Arizona, but good news, we're gonna have drinks and we're gonna be inside an air-conditioned room. So if you are planning on joining, be sure to use that discount code, and please feel free to let me know and give me a shout. That way I can make sure to look out for you, and can't wait to see you soon. All right, folks, let's start the show. Hello, learning nerds, and welcome on in to the nerdiest podcast that you're going to hear today. I'm your host. My name is Dr. Luke Hobson. I'm an assistant director of instructional design, an author, a blogger, a podcaster, and I create a lot of content really on the internet, all about designing meaningful, relevant, and interesting types of learning experiences that you can use for yourselves and, of course, for your students. And you can find all of the information that I have for you over at drlukehobson.com. Today's episode is all about my experimentation with Claude. Surprise, surprise, that has been my favorite tool as of late. And this episode is all about how I built a tool to make learning strategies that actually stick. So tell me if this sounds familiar, because you're an instructional designer and you make several decisions inside of your learning experience and what exactly they're going to look like. The sequences, the orders, the patterns, and how everything fits together. And you may not even realize it because at this point in time, it's second nature to you. Think about it. Like, we meet with our subject matter experts, we draft up an outline together, and then like magic, the puzzle pieces start to be able to fit in together as far as for what is the learning experience going to really go into at the end of a day. And maybe you said something before of, oh, after this video, we should have the learners write a journal entry to reflect upon a time when this situation happened to them and what they learned from the experience. And before you know it, your course map, it's filling out nicely, and you think that you have quite the memorable and effective learning experience. But my question for you is, how did you know that a journal entry would be best after that kind of video? Why didn't you choose a scenario-based problem? Why didn't you have it flow into a discussion board to build upon the conversation and the different types of momentum? These have been questions that have been on my mind recently because one of my newer instructional designers on my team was just asking me of, why did you pick this instead of that? And this had me pause for a second where I'm like, how do I explain this? Because after being an instructional designer for over a decade, I know what learning strategies make sense to incorporate and when and where in the design. One strategy is chosen because it's a lower cognitive lift, or one is selected because it is a perfect wraparound for a series of weeks, and then we're going to have this final type of a great summative assessment to bring it all home. Or one selection might be to drive more engagement because the content is a bit dull, and I'm aware of it, and it needs a spark, it needs a good jolt in the arm, so the selection that I'm going to make is going to have more active participation. There are several reasons for why you might choose one learning strategy over another, but I know, especially for you younger instructional designers out there, you're like, yeah, this is kind of tricky. Like, how do you know to pick and when and choose and why? And I definitely hear you. And while this podcast and my blog and my newsletter and everything else that I have produced over the years is a great resource for you to dive on into all of these things, I did not have a singular place for me to be able to point you to say that I want you to check out a tool that's going to help you to figure out what type of learning strategy to pick and when and where and why and things of that nature. So I built one, and I'm calling it Learning Strategies That Actually Stick. If you go inside of his show notes, it's going to be taking you over into my website, and you'll see it living there at drlukehobson.com. This tool was built by taking many of the presentations that I've done over the years, and I added them all into Claude and tried to be able to compact this information into one system for you. And after everything was all said and done, this came out to 24 different kinds of learning strategies that you can use. And I was actually a bit surprised to see that number. I was like, that's a pretty darn high number. But after looking at all my bullet points and such, I was like, oh yeah, that does add up. And at the end of the day, it does give you a sense of variety, and it gives you more different types of options and selections to being able to choose from that are just beyond the standard of essays, quizzes, multiple choice questions, and things like that drive me bonkers. So here's how this works. If you go inside of a tool, you're going to see 3 different types of filtering options. There is an assessment option for formative or summative assessments. You're going to see modalities for individual, group work, or a mix of the two for being hybrid, and the time to implement. So let's go over what these options actually mean. Formative assessments are ongoing, low-stakes checks used during learning to guide instruction and improve student understanding. Think of multiple choice questions, polls, matching games, practice questions, and things like that. Summative assessments are high-stakes evaluations conducted after learning to measure proficiency against standards. Think of case studies, project-based learning, capstones, and etc. These require a lot more effort to be able to put in. While modalities are self-evident, I don't need to explain to you the difference of individual versus group work, the hybrid filter is in place because you do have some assessments where it might make more sense to do one over another. Think of presentations. That's a good one. In some cases, you want to measure group work, collaboration, communication, versus seeing if someone as an individual can put everything all together for a presentation on their own. The last category, though, is a one that's really worth diving on into, and that's time. The way that this was constructed was around time to implement for you, actually, the designer. This filter ranks the time it takes to craft a strategy as low, medium, or high. Low are simpler tasks, and high are complex. Think of how long it takes for you to create a game or a simulation, set up the proper sequence for designing a learning experience in a community setting, or set up connections and experiential learning capacity. That is a high complex series of events to being able to do, and it's going to take quite a while for you to set everything up all together. The helpful part about this is that however long it takes you to design an assessment usually means the same amount of time it takes for the students to complete it. And while that's not a perfect golden rule, it does give you some different types of ballpark ideas for how long it's going to take the students to do. Setting up a problem-based learning assessment, it takes a lot of time and effort, and it takes the students the same amount of mental energy to be able to solve that type of a problem. Within each strategy, there will be a definition, when to use it, and an example in action. And when you select these, it is going to pop up and it's going to give you a type of a title card. And right now, to be honest with you, I'm still working on this to try to make it a better and more specific example. My idea is that I actually want to be able to just upload my real examples that I've been working on my courses over the years. And if they're short, sweet, to the point, it's no problem at all. And Claude can display them in a really simplistic, easy way. But if I'm trying to share with you a full-blown PBL assignment that I have fully baked and trying to being able to put that into Claude/my website, which is Squarespace, it kind of looks a bit odd. It gets a bit cut off, and so I'm still trying to be able to figure it out at the moment. But while I'm still updating this, the keys, ideas, they're all still in place, and everything that I've been talking about in this episode can be used right now. Once you have your course outline, your learning objectives, the ideas ideas for the content, these strategies can provide direction for what technique to use and when. I would think about this process with two different types of key thoughts in mind. The first is making sure the technique that you select aligns with the overarching goals of the course, the training, the workshop, the program, whatever type of learning product you are building. If I'm creating a short course on how to negotiate a higher salary at your job, a role-playing activity or a scenario-based problem would absolutely align with the overarching goals. That just makes sense. While others could fit inside of this form of a negotiation course, they aren't the most optimal. I wouldn't select an essay or a narrative assignment on how to get the raise you're looking for. That's not really going to be helping you out in this type of space. The second key thought is to think about the time spent in the learning environment. I'm not a stickler for many things in life, but one massive issue I have is when designers overestimate or underestimate time. If a module is going to take 5 to 7 hours to complete, then it better be as close as possible to that range. If someone goes through the module and they spend 20 hours, well, then something's terribly wrong and that needs to be revised. You should use this learning strategies tool as a guide for how long strategies will take. For instance, peer-reviewed based assessments are an excellent teaching tool. Students complete their own assignment and then review the work of other students and they leave feedback. It's a great way not only to see multiple perspectives, but also how to learn to provide feedback, which is tricky. That's a whole skill of being able to provide proper feedback, but this takes time to do. It is not a 1-hour assignment in the course, and then all of a sudden everything is good to go. This needs to be able to have the right type of setup around it as far as for teaching people how to even give feedback in the first place. For some, they've probably never even looked at a rubric before in their life. It's entirely possible, so you need to be able to bake those factors into consideration. Overall, you can use this tool as a step in the right direction for your designs. These can be for in-person or online learning experiences, whatever that you're currently designing for. And once again, working prototype, I'm going to add more to make them better, but it's still a really valuable tool for right now. I'm currently working on the same idea too for a learning science tool and a learning theory tool, which has been kind of cool. So stay tuned and more to come on those. Also, I had to give a big thank you to all of you who have filled out the AI and instructional design survey. If you haven't yet seen this, I'm trying to collect as much information as possible about our perceptions and use cases with AI inside of the instructional design field. So I put together a survey. I sent that out on LinkedIn and via email as well. And right now we have 260 responses, which is phenomenal. I would love to get to 300. So if you have not yet filled out that survey, please go down inside of the show notes and tell me what you think about AI, whether you love it or hate it. I want to be able to know so that way I can share these results with everybody in our field, just so that way we have clear answers around our perceptions and thoughts and feelings with generative AI. And that, my friends, is all that I have for you today. If you enjoyed today's show, give it a 5-star rating wherever you are listening. And once again, head on over to drlukehompson.com to find everything else that I have for you over there. And other than that, that's it. That is today's episode. Stay nerdy out there. I'll talk to you next time.